going on, everybody? Man, Mike is back with another video, back here to talk about my iPhone camera settings that gives me great quality when it comes to my photos and specifically the videos that I now use to shoot my YouTube videos. So if you guys are interested in that, along with additional content about how to get the most out of your iPhones and even iPads, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, so that way you never miss my videos, so that way we can sit back and see what's cracking. Now let's get into the video. First thing we're gonna do is grab the iPhone 15 Pro. This is the 512 gig version. And the reason why I got that is because, I need the storage when using high resolution video. And so how do you accomplish this? Well, first we're gonna come into settings. And then once we're in settings, we're gonna scroll down here until we get to camera. And upon arriving to camera, you select it, and this is where the fun begins, right? So upon seeing here, the first thing you see is record video. And of course, if I can get a little closer, you guys can see the option that I'm using is 4K 30. The reason why I use 4K 30 is because I shoot my videos in 30 frames per second. There is no need for me to shoot in 4K 60 and then downscale it to 4K 30 unless I'm doing anything slow-mo related, which a lot of times I'm not. I shoot at the designated frames that I need, that I'm going to use to get the most quality out of that. Any slow-mo that I decide to shoot is 1080p at 120 frames as opposed to 720p at 240. I just prefer high definition. Recording cinematic mode, which we'll get into once we enter the camera app, I likewise do 4K 30, and the option is the most that you can do. And as you guys can see there, 170 megabytes with 4K at 30. So you see, that's a lot of data that this is going to be capturing when it comes to your footage. Now, format-wise, once we click on this, I use most compatible because it's the easiest to edit in. It does not tweak the footage in post, nor when bringing it into an editor. And I think this is the one setting that I changed to actually improve my footage. When I would edit it in DaVinci Resolve, I changed it from high efficiency to most compatible. In terms of photos, I use 24 megapixels as opposed to 12. And as you guys can see there, it's 4.8 megabytes at 24 megapixels as opposed to 3 megabytes. So again, larger file sizes because of the data that it's capturing, so that way it can be manipulated most in post. We also have Pro Raw and resolution control on, as well as Pro Raw Max. So if I want to get more granular with my edit for a specific photo, I'll turn that on in the camera app to then get and absorb as much data as possible per shot. Now that's in terms of formats. Now, what do I use to also kind of improve and frame my shots? Well, we see I use the grid and composition there, grid and level. I don't mirror my front camera, and I view outside the frame just to give me perspective of what I could potentially want to use in frame or want to leave out of frame. So I use the entire iPhone screen for that. In terms of sound, of course, it's recording stereo sound. I will be getting a mic at some point. I don't know when. I'm eyeballing the Rode Video Mic Me-C or the DJI one, but the DJI one is like 3 times the price. So that's something to keep in mind when it comes to microphones. You kind of have to jump out the gate a little bit. I'm currently using a $250 mic for my cameras in the Rode Video Mic Pro Plus, and I love this mic. I just wish I could have used it with the iPhone, but I can't, unfortunately. So that's the camera settings here. And then of course for photos, I do main camera 24 and 35. You have the option of doing 28, but it's not enough of a difference there for me. I like the more kind of wide angle-esque look with the 24, and then more of a standard wide with 35, and that's why I do that. And my default is 35 with the 1.5x zoom. Coming down here any further, yes, I use lens correction and macro control if I want to get tighter shots and maintain quality there. So that's the settings portion of the camera app. Now, if we jump into the camera app, this is where it also gets fun. And as you guys can see, this is where you see those controls come in. So photos, for example, you see Pro Raw right there, or Raw Max, and upon clicking it, you see nothing quite changed, right? But once you hit that little drop down arrow, now you have more granular controls down here. So you have, you can turn your live photo on and off. You can change the aspect ratio. You can change the exposure. You can also change, turn on a timer, and then you can already add some preset filters onto the photo upon shooting it. Most of that I don't really take advantage of, other than changing the aspect ratio and tweaking the exposure from time to time. In terms of white balance, if I press and hold, okay, so you can do autofocus lock, which is nice, but nothing white balance oriented, which is a little interesting in my opinion. I wish you would have had a little bit more control over that. Now, in terms of regular video, as you see at the top right again, you see ProRes, and I use SDR. I forgot to show you that in the settings, but you can change that between SDR, HDR, and log. So if I press that, it's gonna suck up a ton of footage, a ton of data, because ProRes is way high quality. And in DaVinci, you can render videos in ProRes too. Pretty nice feature to have for the iPhone. You can of course swap your settings over here as well. With the 4K 30, you can just tap it and it'll change. But in order to do that, you need to have a SSD. Don't use that. Don't have that. So I'm not focused on that. And I don't use 4K 60. So I don't even need to worry about that. Now, if you guys wanted to see that, if we go back over here to settings and we come up here to 4K, the record video function, if we scroll down here, of course I use stabilization, I use active mode, lower light, HDR video I turned off. So this is something I also turned off, and it also says high efficiency, which I think may have tweaked my videos in post, which kind of threw my color grade or color correction off in post. It really took me much longer to kind of hone that in. I do use auto frames per second, auto at 30 and 60. And what this does, it reduces the frame rate to improve low light videos and optimize file size. Lock camera, and you can lock right balance for video, as you guys can see that. I think that's actually a smart idea to have on. And let's see, that's camera there. Now, upon looking for the ProRes information, if we jump back into formats here, you will see down at the bottom ProRes and the ProRes encoding. And I have SDR, and it explains right there down there the amount of data that this pay attention to the notes there at the bottom of the screen. It really does highlight just how much data, how much storage, even just a minute of 10-bit HDR ProRes is, taking up 1.7 gigs per minute, basically. Well, that's at 1080p and 6 gigs for 4K 30. So there's 1 minute and 6 gigs. So imagine recording 10 minutes, right? Times 6, that's 60 gigs. 60 gigs. So definitely be mindful of that, along with the type of content that you're shooting to make sure that you do want to use ProRes, that it's worth it, that you have the amount of storage. And yes, that's where having some sort of external drive would come in handy. Now, of course, going back on over to the camera here, if we go ahead and switch on over to cinematic mode actually gives us additional functionality, additional options. So if you see here, there's an f-stop. You can actually adjust your f-stop between, I don't know how low it goes, all the way down to F2 and as high as F16. Isn't that pretty neat? That's pretty nice right there. So, of course, for me, mine's at 2.8, and you can do 1 time or 2 times. 2 times, not too bad in terms of that. That's about it. Let's see if I go ahead and do that. Hit it again. You get exposure settings, of course, that you can, choose between. Isn't that pretty unique that you have these options available for shooting video with the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max? Some of these features are available with like the 14 Pro, but I don't think it's available for the 13 Pro and lower. But definitely for the 15 Pro, these are some of the settings that I use for my iPhone 15 Pro. So let me down in the comment section below, do you use any of these features? How far do you go in terms of things that you try to address when it comes to shooting with your iPhones? Do you even shoot with your iPhones? If you do shoot any video, the comment section is open for discussion. But again, as always, if you guys haven't already, make sure you guys ignite the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so that way you know my videos. So we can sit back, chillax, see what's cracking. It's your man Micah signing out. Until the next video. Wait for it.